I prepared only 27 slides, so it will not last that long. So I was told by Manang Gio to say something about the life of Saint Arnold Jansen, about his mission. But I'm sorry, Manang Gio, I have to share something different. Listening to the Holy Spirit, I think whatever I can share tonight with you, let it be as part of my contribution to your spiritual nourishment as a group. I really admire you because not even the pandemic can dampen the enthusiasm to continue on. For us here in the Central Province, we have not done much after our gathering here in Tagaytay. And this really makes your group, in a sense, special. So to begin with, I would like to bring you back to the time that our saintly founder was contemplating of sending the first SVD missionaries to Abra. And according to my readings, there were 3 reasons. The first one is he had already, being a European, and during that time, towards the end of the 19th century, 1870s, very strong sa Europe yung desire ng mga missionaries to convert so-called pagans outside Europe. And one of the concerns of Arnold Jansen was to convert, share in that call to convert and bring people to Christianity. And that is the reason why he chose Abra, because of his desire to Christianize our brothers. For example, I'm sorry for the term, but his love for the indigenous peoples. That's the first reason. The second reason is dahil nagkaroon ng revolution in 1898. Alam po natin yan na wala ang mga expat missionaries. They were sent back to their countries, the friars, and therefore there was a scarcity of priests. And so Arnold Jansen wanted to address that. And the third reason was to counteract Aglipayanism. And because Abra is one of the seats of Aglipayanism, that's why he chose Abra. So anyway, itong tatlong reasons na ito, especially for the last 2 reasons, this would show us how Arnold Jansen really loved the Catholic Church. He is a man of the church. That's why he founded the SVD and the other 2 congregations. And yet he is also a man of the times. Yung mga Dominicans, Franciscans, the Augustinians are also men of the church or men of the church. But the difference with our founder is he is very keen in reading the signs of the times. And it is in this spirit that I have chosen this particular topic to share with you. I have a student here in DWIMS now. He's doing his doctorate, the former dean of CICM in Manila. And he was sharing in our class kung gaano nila hinahangaan ang SVD kasi our congregation can easily adapt to the signs of the times. And he was sharing to us na ang dahilan na nahati ang kanilang kongregasyon is because the pioneering missionaries did not really like to adapt to the signs of the times. So anyway, this is my way of introducing my topic, which might be quite strange for you, and that is about the upcoming synod being organized by the Vatican now. which would be launched this coming October 7 and 19. And it's a synod that will start from 2021 to 2023. It is the 16th Ordinary Synod of Bishops, and the theme of this synod is For a Synodal Church, Communion, Participation, and Mission. At the end of my sharing, I would like to ask you why do I have to share about this synodality? What is its relationship to our congregation, to the life of Arnold Johnson, to our being members of the SVD? I do not know if you are aware about this, but this is a big project in the papacy of Pope Francis. They say this is one of a milestone in the papacy of Pope Francis. So this synod aims to steer the Catholic Church to becoming a synodal church or synodal church in order to serve the world. What does the word synod mean? The word synod comes from two Latin words, syn, which means with, and the second is odos, which means path. So combining the words or these two syllables together, we come up with the word synodal or synod, which means walking together, walking with one another. So when we say the Holy Father would like to advance a synodal church, he simply wants a church that walks together. And what is the purpose of the synod? As you see, in the very essence of the term, the church should walk together, because by walking together and reflecting together on the path traveled, experiencing which synodal processes can help it to live communion, to achieve participation, and to be open to mission. So in the process of entering the synodal experience, we come together in communion, we empower each one to participate and to be actively engaged in mission. This is a walk together to implement and manifest the nature of the church as the people of God on our journey, a sign and instrument of intimate union with God and of the unity of the whole human race. Lumen Gentium of Vatican II, in solidarity with whom she walks. So this synod would like to highlight the fact that our church is a people of God. We are a pilgrim church on a journey. A church that is always in reform. In his message in October 17, 2015, that was 6 years ago, during the 50th anniversary of the institution of the Synod of Bishops, he said, "The world in which we live and which we are called to love and serve, even with its contradictions, demands that the Church strengthen cooperation in all areas of her mission." So, despite the brokenness of the world, despite the scandals in the world, name it and we have it. And yet, we as a church should strengthen our cooperation. We should be open to embrace the woundedness and sinfulness of the world in all areas of our mission. And you as lay people are the one who are in the front line. And it is precisely this path of synodality which God expects of the church of the third millennium. They say there is no other way for the church of the third millennium to move on than to become a synodal church. In this synodal church, the church becomes inclusive. Young people and elder together, lay people, priests and consecrated together, we walk together because this is the mark of an inclusive church. I believe this COVID-19 crisis is an eye-opener that highlights interdependency. And as Pope Francis said, it also highlights the urgency of synodality. For ordinary people, they see, or even sociologists, economists, and other scholars say that the COVID-19 highlights the divide between the rich and the poor. The pandemic highlights the disparity among the rich and the poor, but from the Christian perspective, we do not see it that way. We look at the COVID-19 as an eye-opener for us to realize that we need one another. And the COVID-19 is an equalizer. It exposes our sense of mortality across ages, across social status. And therefore, the only way to combat this crisis is the sense of interdependency. This is the Christian way of looking at our situation today. The COVID-19 is pushing us to come together and recognize that in spite of our differences, we are on the same boat. We are connected with one another. And this is the same message reflected or embodied by his two other encyclicals, Laudato Si, and the more recent one, Fratelli Tutti. Therefore, synodality, as advanced by the Holy Father, is the roadmap of fraternity. A synodal journey, the journey of the church. By the way, this synodality started only after the Second Vatican Council. The Second Vatican Council happened in 1962 to 1965. After that, the church continued to reflect on the meaning, the spirit of synodality, because in 1965, Paul VI declared or instituted the Synod of Bishops as a part of the journey of renewal of the Catholic Church after the Second Vatican Council. That's why this important synod, which will start next month, that will last until 2023, is the 16th synod after the Second Vatican Council. And this is a journey, a path of renewal for a missionary church that was envisioned by the Second Vatican Council. The recent synodal assemblies, for example, during the papacy of Pope Francis on the family, 2014 and 2015, and on the young people in 2018. That's why he produced Christus Vivit later on. And then the last synod that he organized was the Synod for the Amazon in 2019. These are all parts of the journey of renewal through the synodal gathering of the church. And when we say synod, it's not only the bishops coming together. Synod allows the participation of the lay people. All the synods have shown how the Church draws from the synodal journey new awareness and new impetus to enter into that permanent state of mission that must animate her to be faithful to her Lord. An image from Christus Vivit, the post-synodal exhortation after the synod on the young people, is an image of a canoe. We are all on the same boat. We are a church on the move, a church on the sea. However, this is really very ideal because this is the only way for the church of the 21st century to become relevant to the society. But what the Lord is asking of us is already in some sense present in the very word synod. Journeying together, it's easy to understand. Coming together, laity, pastors, the Bishop of Rome, you have been doing that. As a congregation, we have started with this journey of synodality. It is an easy concept to put into words, but not so easy to put into practice. Pope Francis recognizes that. He recognizes the big challenge in carrying out the spirit of synodality. This could be some of the challenges that the church would encounter: the challenge to deal with the difference, the challenge to listen, the challenge to empower and recognize that others can do just as the way we do, and the challenge to implement co-responsibility. From this background of Pope Francis's vision of a synodal church, this is quite a new topic now that is circulating in the academe, in theological discussions, in the church. That's why I wanted to share it with you as a point for our reflection tonight, because the challenge is also posed on us. And therefore, what is the Arnoldus family's response to the call and challenges of synodality? How have we been responding? It is at this point that I would like to suggest, to propose that Arnold Johnson, who founded our congregation 146 years ago, is relevant in our time. And personally, this makes me feel so blessed belonging to this congregation, because I feel that the spirit of our founder still reverberates in our church today. So when I was reading the document on synodality and other documents on synodality, I always come to think how our saintly founder have really envisioned his congregations such that we become relevant even in the midst of our changing times. I have shown you this during our gathering here in Dwims, but let me show once again the journal of our congregation, SVD in particular, since Vatican II. After Vatican II, all congregations, the church in general, was really pushed to respond to the challenge of renewal. And these were the result of the chapters after Vatican II. But if you look at all these general chapters, you can see here communion, prophetic dialogue, interculturality rooted in the Word, you would appreciate that even before Pope Francis started to think about synodality, we already started to think about prophetic dialogue. We already start to think about interculturality. And all this initiative of our leadership would point to the same spirit being espoused by the Holy Father now in renewing the Catholic Church. I'm not saying I do not want to arrogate the what do I ayaw kong sabihin masyado namang itinataas ko ang pagiging SVD. And I'm just being overwhelmed always to share this to our students na ang espiritu ng ating founder is really very much alive in our time. And it is this realization that makes me really inspired to go on in my ministry, to discover more how our being members of this congregation can really help more in the renewal of the church, in advancing the mission of the church today. And in particular, if we speak of synodality, the concepts of prophetic dialogue and interculturality could really be the concepts that capture the spirit of synodality. Why? Because when we speak of prophetic dialogue, I'm sure you have heard resource speakers sharing on prophetic dialogue and interculturality as a part of our charism. For me, this is our response. I do not go anymore into the details, but just some points that captures the essence of prophetic dialogue and interculturality. One is, in prophetic dialogue and interculturality, we are always called to be builders. We are always called to be builders of home, creating the sense of homeness among others, even among strangers. Because we have to relate with somebody who is other. In prophetic dialogue and interculturality, we are formed to discover the dignity of difference, that the other who is not the same like me is also dignified just as I am. Yung sa SVD farm during weekend po ay we ask the seminarians to serve our visitors in their kasak. And months ago, may mga kakilala akong bumisita and medyo na-embarrass ako kasi isa sa kanila ang nagsabi in the presence of the seminarians who are non-Filipinos. Sabi nila, Father, bakit ang iitim na ng mga seminarista ninyo noon ang gugwapo ng mga SVD, ngayon ang iitim na. So parang I was really embarrassed because of course that was an innocent remark. And maybe that friend of mine did not realize that even these guys understand Tagalog. So anyway, this example would tell us that the world really could be racist. I'm sorry. But for us, as sons and daughters of Arnold Johnson, we celebrate on our differences. And I think this is, when we speak of synodality, this is exactly what Francis is saying in his document. And the third point is, we are called always to rethink the way we think. We are called to be dynamic, to be open always, going through the process of conversion, not static, not fixed, and be contented with what we have. This is one characteristic of being a prophet of dialogue, a builder of cultures. And so we go back to the Synodal Church that is envisioned by the Holy Father. He longs for a church that would change from the clerical mindset to a synodal church that is a relational church, that is an inclusive church, a dialogical church, a discerning church, a generative church, a pluricultural church. Generative church means it's a life-giving church. It's not a moralizing church. A church that is used to operate on structures, to a church that respects dynamism, to a monolithic church, to a polyhedric church. A church being seated, a church that walks together, a church that is bound by fixed by geography, but a church that celebrates the wide horizons of the sea, a church of the cathedral, but a church that is on a journey, on a boat. Becoming a synod, therefore, is a process. It's a church that continue to walk together. But Pope Francis said, it's not enough to have a synod. In preparation for this upcoming synod, he said, you must be a synod. The church needs intense internal sharing, a living dialogue between the pastors and the faithful. To synthesize, I'm almost done with my presentation. You can see here, pointing out Pope Francis's image of a synodal church, he said, the church should be a listening church. The church should empower others to feel the sense of co-responsibility. And the third is a church, a synodal church that allows the voices of the faithful to be heard. And with this, I would say the SVD is trying to respond. We are on the right track. But I do not just see this as a legacy of the SVD. It is the spirit of our saintly founder who always listened to the voice of the Spirit, who always listened to the divine word, who always listened to the promptings of the Spirit. I would always say, in your own practical life as lay people, I think one of the myths, one of the causes of tensions among family members, I think, is when we do not listen to one another. And I think even in terms of parenting nowadays, one of the causes of tensions is when parents do not listen anymore to their children. And just as we want to be involved in the church, we also form our own children to be co-responsible. All this could be applied, appropriated in our own context, in our own lives, day-to-day living. If we really would like to become faithful and true sons and daughters of Arnold Jansen. When I was a seminarian, I did not understand why we had always the devotion to the Holy Spirit every Monday. Why I was always asking, isn't it that our devotion to the divine word is not enough? Is it not enough? But when I became a priest, when I studied missiology, when my professor was always telling us that the church of the 21st century is a church that should listen to the Holy Spirit, that should listen to its members, I became more appreciative of the legacy of our founder on the devotion to the Holy Spirit. But behind this is his wisdom, because he has always listened. And with this, I would like to thank you for listening. I hope you learned something from my sharing tonight. I would like to give back the floor to Manang Gio. Kuya Mike.
Yeah. And share na lang, Father, for your screen. So we'll have a response song for you from the North. Sandali lang po.
As we reflect more on the sharing of Father Sam tonight, we pause for a moment and as we play the response.
By the Father, His words to see, hear and feel, His words to read and share, in openness to the guiding Spirit, to do the will of God, to be disciple, chaste for obedient, immersed in the life of the Trinity. Oh, I see Arnoldus, just like the Word made flesh, self-giving, to follow Jesus Christ, through cross and resurrection, in suffering and joy. Saved by Jesus, we live together as brothers from many cultures. We pass over to be with others, offering and receiving good news with respect, understanding, compassion, and love. Led by the Spirit we answer, joyfully full of hope. We serve, share, become one with all people, with those on the frontiers of our faith and the margin of society. Saved by Jesus, we live together as brothers from many cultures. We in communion of all humanity. In the communion of humanity, with the giant God who loves us. Sent by Jesus, we live together as brothers from many cultures. We pass over to be with others, offering and receiving good news with respect, understanding, compassion, and love. With respect, understanding, compassion, and
So thank you very much, Father Sam. Gallery tayo, Mike. Thank you very much, Father Sam, for that very empowering and insightful sharing